Hello, and welcome to the Ranger's unit of the week. And today we're taking a look at the BR-5 280mm artillery gun. In the early 30s, the Red Army has a whole heap of very heavy siege guns, mainly inherited from the Russian Imperial Army. But these guns were starting to get a little bit long in the tooth. There's better artillery technology out in the time, and so they decided to upgrade their arsenal. It'd come up with a whole heap of calibers, 152mm, 203mm, and then 280mm. The reason for 280 is that one of the previous guns, the Snyder, was also 280mm, so you might as well just use the same caliber. These would be entering into service in the late 30s, with just under 50 being produced. One of its notable features is that the carriage it's on can actually move by itself at a very slow rate, mind you, but most of the time it did not travel under its own propulsion. They still use artillery tractors to really take it from A to B. It would first see combat service during the Winter War, as their main objective was to blow the absolute hell out of the Mannerheim Line. During the Great Patriotic War, as you might imagine in the earlier stages of the war, they didn't see as much heavy service towards the later stages as the Soviets were on the offensive, and as they're getting deeper into Germany, they need to blow up these heavily fortified German forts as well as cities. In-game, the BR-5 280mm is a 160-point self-propelled artillery system available exclusively to the 26th Guards Infantry Division, and it has one big honkin' weapon, and that is the M6 280mm cannon with 18 high explosive shells. The damage is 14 HE, which is a lot. The suppression and blast radius, of course, is out of this world. The accuracy is decent, and the rate of fire is slower. It's exactly what you expect of a gun of this caliber. Big kabooms. Down to miscellaneous stats is a vehicle, but it's an unarmored vehicle. So it has no armor, so it gets screwed by everything. It's obviously an indirect fire weapon with, fortunately, a radio attached to it. It goes a whopping 9 kilometers off-road, 11 kilometers on the road, bad stealth, and good optics. So, in battle, the 280mm artillery cannon is basically just an off-map artillery gun, but being brought on the map. But the question is, does it actually have much of a use? A gun of this caliber, you only really need to hit the correct zip code of your target if you want to actually do any damage, and if you get a direct hit, pretty much most things are going to die unless it has a decent amount of armor. It is very bloody good, especially if the radio, if you manage to get spotters up on the front line, picking off individual high-value units, whether it's anti-aircraft guns, counter-battery, or 9 anti-tank guns. Even though it is off-map caliber artillery on the map, it doesn't fulfill the off-map artillery role, as off-map artillery is saturation alpha damage in a short period of time to clear usually a sector of the battlefield for you to push up. This is a more of a precision tool. But in the year 26, you also have access to the B4, which is just a little bit smaller at 203mm. You do get better availability of the B4 compared to the BR-5, which does help out a bit. But honestly, for 10 points more, you're getting quite a lot of extra damage. And I find, especially in a 1v1, usually just one of these guns will be enough to make a big impact on the battlefield. You know, if you're playing the team games, the B4s might be a bit more beneficial just for the saturation. Also, with it being an unarmored vehicle, it does make it a very vulnerable unit, as unarmored vehicles can get shot at by anything. HE, AP, small arms, whatever. It's just going to die. And its slow speed, I believe it's one of the slowest units in the game, does not help you in regards to relocating this unit to avoid counter-battery fire. Overall, the unit pretty much has one useful niche role of picking off important high-value targets, especially if they're anti-aircraft weaponry, because it was quite vulnerable to ground fire, even though technically artillery is a form of airborne bombardment. Really, we're just talking about it because it's a big cannon. And I just like big guns. I cannot lie. These other guns cannot deny. Anyway, we're gonna leave it here. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. And as usual, please just take it easy.